everybody. Welcome to the Add Agility podcast, Agile on Air. I'm Daniel Gibson, Agile coach with Add Agility, and these are my fellow Agilists here today.
I'm Phil Cutcliffe, Agile coach as well, and we have...
my name's Stephen Mackenzie. I'm also an agility coach.
3 coaches in the room. It's going to be fun.
25 different opinions tonight then.
Yes.
Might as well open a coach station. Right, okay, so what are we talking about tonight?
So the topic we've got tonight is a big one. It's building agile teams. So
that's a biggie. This
is not what the teams do once they're formed or how you might go through those first few weeks with a new team, but it's okay, you've got some money, you need to go and find some people. What does it look like? How would you go about building a team to deliver in an agile way?
Indeed. It's fitting as well for the first podcast, I think, because that's where the manifesto started, right? All started around the team as a unit. And it was only later when Agile became all this thing about organisational agility and scaling. It all focused around the team when it started. And so it seems fitting for our first podcast that we do the team, because when you get the team right, it's pretty magic, isn't it?
Individuals and interactions?
Yes, over process and tools.
Yes.
So what we're not talking about then, so
right.
we wouldn't be talking about sustaining a team, team building, helping individuals become part of a better team.
Not for this one.
Not for this one. I think we're going to keep it simple for the moment. Stick with building a team, what the team looks like, why we're building it in that way, what are the features of an agile team that we're trying to create, and we'll just give people an overview if they're thinking of setting up agile teams, what good looks like.
Yeah, and also what some of the pitfalls are, because with all the teams we've seen. So if I think of my career, the number of teams I've worked with is hundreds now. It's the root cause quite often of a lot of the challenges we see. So probably a good place to start is why this is important.
It is a good place to start, because actually when you get the teams right and team structures right, a lot of other things fall into place, don't they? So if you've got the team structures wrong and you bring in loads of working methods, it's just like lipstick on a pig, isn't it?
Well, where can we go wrong then? Is that an easy place to start? If we talk about the things that go wrong, maybe that can guide us towards the right things to do when we're building a team. Team horror stories?
Yeah, there's quite a few. So there was one team I worked with where they were starting. It's like, well, okay, what should we do? There's a new thing we're going to build, and they hired 2 project managers, 3 business analysts, who are all great people and really good in their own right. A couple of architects and one doer, one person who was actually doing the building. And you can imagine what happens when you structure a team like that. You'll produce a lot of documentation and a lot of plans, but you won't necessarily get much stuff built. Yeah,
the classic doesn't go right is just keeping old silos but calling them agile. So the amount of people who've come to training courses we've run saying, oh yeah, I'm in an agile test team. It's like, no, you're not. You're in a test team.
So you'd hire 2 agile project managers, an agile tester.
Yeah, hire an agile project manager to coordinate the work between the agile development team and the agile test team. No, it's
that's not quite getting it, is it?
Old school thinking with new names.
But seriously, when you get it right, it's first of all, it's so much more engaging for the team.
Yeah.
You get a happier team who are more productive. You get stuff faster. Quality is usually higher.
You got to quote John Smart. Better value, sooner, safer, happier.
Yes.
Like, it's a good book, but it gets really annoying when that's mentioned 200 times. But at least you remember it, hey. All right, all serious now. He's a good communicator, and that is a good catchphrase for what you're trying to do, isn't it? Because You're trying to get better value delivery. You're trying to reduce the lead times from that when somebody's got a concept and it becomes, working code that is adding value to the business. You are trying to make the systems that you've got better quality, safer, and you're trying to make your teams happier and involved in meaningful work. I think that's an important thing. Meaningful work, because without Agile and its Occam's razor simplicity, you add meaningless bureaucracy to everybody's work day, and everybody hates that.
Is there a tension there for meaningful work? Because I have worked with people and encouraging more team ownership of certain aspects of the delivery process.
Yeah.
That might be supporting a product that is live. It might be testing a product that's about to be deployed. It might be some aspects of development like a database or a front-end piece of code. And you often meet people who feel most comfortable in a particular role. No, I am an X developer, so I develop X.
I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with specialisation in an Agile team, but it's the team is a symbiotic organisation that's working together and is greater than the sum of the parts. So I'm happy. I think there's something around these days which is totally mythical, which is the full stack developer who can not only design great HTML and looks lovely and can get the UX right and can do JavaScript and can do the framework beneath and can do the microservices underneath that and can do the database.
But I think it's a helpful aspiration, isn't it? Because you don't want anyone within your team who will sit there and build a silo around themselves.
No, I get that. But on the flip side, I don't think there are many one-man IT departments around. It's
Fair enough. There's a reason we work in teams.
Yeah, and I think this is an important point actually with the whole team formation, because we wanted to talk about cross-functional teams, didn't we? And
we'll come on to that in a minute. So is it worth at this point perhaps outlining the structure of how we're going to set it up?
Yeah.
Go on, outline the structure.
Help us out.
Somebody's got to be professional around here.
So what we'll do with this is you can kind of split how to build a team into a number of sections, and we'll go through those one by one. So we're going to start with cross-functional teams, what that means and why it's important. We'll talk about around co-location.
Ooh.
Yeah, which is an interesting topic.
That sounds dangerous.
In this time,
COVID safe.
Having teams at the right size. What is the right size for a team?
Yeah.
Having long-lived teams, having teams that can both build and run and maintain what it is they've built, and then the importance of product ownership, and then the importance of servant leadership. Yay. So that pretty much breaks down the key points. So shall we start with cross-functional teams? What does it mean?
Yeah. What does it mean?
We were just touching on that. So what do you need to change the world the way that you want to change it? What will you need to be able to do?
All right. So let's make it real for people. Typical development, like developing a product, a software product. It just means all the people that you need to get some end-to-end functionality around that product, doesn't it? Pretty much.
If you know what the product needs to do?
Yes.
You might, if you were working in more uncertain circumstances, need to extend the definition of the team to incorporate user experience professionals as well?
Yeah, I consider that, say if we were building a web application, I look at it as the whole gamut of people that you need to develop. Now, you might not have a whole UX person for a team. Preferably you do, but you've got the UX there, you've got the product ownership, which we're going to talk about later, so I'll ignore that for the moment. You've got the front-end developers, you've got some developers developing business logic, however that might look. You might have some people who are responsible for deploying that for production, but that's sometimes something that is often abstracted away from the team for various reasons. But actually, sometimes it's part of the team.
But you just buried the product ownership in that list as well, which is the key one as well, which is somebody who understands what the business needs
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the imperative thing.
You sneaked it in.
The key thing is you got everyone you need to deliver the thing.
Yeah.
So even in a simple version, we had some work done to my house, and the work involved.
Always goes for a house analogy.
I do. Well, because Agile, it's often very easy to go down the software route.
When Phil's saying that we had some work done to his house, he's not talking about us.
No,
we don't live together in the Agile house.
Second job.
When we're having a room renovated. So we had to remove a bathroom, we had to do some plastering, there needed to be some electrics done. And we were very lucky in that we found a group of people who were multi-skilled and could do the whole thing. If we had to go and find a separate electrician, a separate plasterer, a separate labourer, and coordinate them all, that would have been really tough. But thankfully we had this wonderful lady, a plumber, who could do pretty much everything. And she had help from a labourer and brought in, there's times when we had to change the team makeup.
Yeah.
So, you might have that with software. You might need to bring in certain skills at certain times, but as a team, they all worked together and could deliver the value.
Yeah, and I think it's important. So when you have to look at the polar opposite of that, and that's your silo-based delivery mechanisms.
Yes.
Where, traditionally, when you're looking on the process from going from an idea that somebody's got in their head to some working code, it goes through we'll go to the business analyst team and get them to investigate this problem and come up with a bunch of requirements. We'll pass it over to the architecture team and get them to design a solution.
Well, and that could be fine if you have an effective project manager and you're happy to pay for a project manager to coordinate all those specializations. But Phil avoided project managing, I guess, because you had a team that had worked together before and they weren't building silos around themselves. So I guess you said your plumber was happy to work outside of a plumbing specialisation.
Yes. Well, as soon as you start doing what you've suggested with all the different specialisms, if one of those specialisms overruns, so your business analysis takes too long, you're stuck.
Yeah, well, and it's another thing as well. It's like there's never a happy handover from one of those silos to another, because usually the information's passed in documents, but tacit knowledge always gets lost, and then and those handovers are generally milestone based on a plan where somebody's going, oh god, we've got to finish the requirements by next week. Should we sign off the requirements? Yeah. Are they right? Don't give a shit. I've signed them off, and I've seen so many requirements documents back in my old life as a project manager. Just went through the motion. Actually, it's worse than that. Nobody signs it off, and you send a mail out saying, I will assume that you all agree to this document sign off if I don't hear back from you by the end of this week. And evidently you don't hear back from anybody because nobody reads the document. They're not interested. They're only interested when the software product goes wrong.
Well, it's really interesting. You were talking about tacit knowledge and that decays over time. So we go to documents, but nobody reads the documents. How do you do that effectively? But that's a whole other podcast. I think a key thing about this team was that they've worked together before. And that's another key thing about your intention when you're building a team, is that it should be a group of people who you want to work together for a long time and become a genuine team. It's not.
Should we talk about long-lived teams then?
Well, I don't.
To that in a minute. I know. I'm putting structure to it. It's annoying.
If it's on Phil's list.
Yes. I think what we just call out as well is, if you don't have cross-functional teams, and it's a real shade of grey. So it's not, yes, fantastic, you've got cross-functional, you've not. But I work with a lot of teams who can't build anything themselves. They can't finish it, and they require one individual from team A over here, another individual from team B, another individual from team C. And when you find yourself in that situation, often it has to be an evolution. So you gradually build the skills into the team that you're missing. So it's not just a yes or no. You can have more cross-functional teams and less cross-functional teams.
Yeah, and also I think it's good to call out the fact that not every team is a cross-functional team and should not necessarily be a value-aligned team, right? So, and you won't necessarily have all the resources there. So, let's take, for example, large organisation. There's particular resources that are as rare as rocking horse poo. Like security people. You don't generally have one of those in each team. They're kind of a shared service that you call on when you need it, right?
Well, what I've seen work really well is when you bring those people into your team for a few weeks, and they're part of the team. They're there. What tends to be a bit rubbish is when you've got a shared resource like that who's having to work across 3 teams and turn up to 3 teams worth of meetings. So it's quite nice to just say, oh no, you're out this team now, you're in this one, and they can focus. Yeah. And we saw that particularly with things like automated testing as well. Yeah. Okay. Because often the automated test setup is quite a niche or specialist skill.
So this is where team topologies really help, right? In your view of what the different team types. So they've got like these 4 different team types, and one of those team types is they call out an enabling team, and the enabling team's job is to go into like what they call a value aligned team, and their job is to have the bandwidth to ensure that value aligned team, who usually focus on the business value and knocking out features, gives them the extra bandwidth to be able to bring on new skills.
So they come in with additional expertise.
Yep.
But the trick is they might implement a automatic testing framework.
Yep.
But the hard part is not to have anyone feel like they maintain ownership of it, because they're trying to pass the ownership into the value line. Is that
they are, and so the idea is once they've gone in, that team should be self-sufficient in whatever new working methods or technologies that enabling team has brought into the picture. So it's I like team topologies in that way, because it shows you, it says the modus operandi is these cross-functional teams that are organised around value and organised around delivering into essentially a value stream. But there are 3 other team types that it calls out, which I think it's fundamental for people to understand, because I've seen some what I think are quite careless attempts at forming teams all around value when it wasn't really possible, stealing resources from elsewhere and robbing the rest of a department from resources that need to be shared around. So calling out these different team types and actually specifying the sort of interactions between them, I think, is a really important thing in a whole kind of organisational team setup.
So what other types of specialisation might be an enabling team? That's maybe the wrong way to say it, isn't it? But architecture is often
coaching, agile coaching. Okay. You'd have a team of agile coaches, and you might send the team in to go and up the game of and ways of working of one of those teams that are out there that need some assistance. So it's what we'd be on the enabling team. Yeah. What else, like automated testing that you called out, would be great. Now the other thing is, so component teams get a bad rap, right? And it's probably a bad thing. But if you take on a new technology, right? So you take on, imagine you go and you say, right, we want to move to APIs. You're in an organisation that doesn't use APIs yet. You're like living in the a couple of centuries ago or whatever. Yeah. So you work in an organisation that's not quite got its API stuff up to scratch, and then you say, right, well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to form a team that just deals with the API layer at the moment. It's counterintuitive to this, but there's some reasons why you might do that to start off with. You might do that to get your standards and investigate the right technology to run with. So, but once you do that, you should start using those guys as an enabling team to enable the value stream aligned teams to be able to actually utilize that technology, so that you're sharing around and you haven't done that horrible componentized architecture split around technology layers.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the difficult bit when you're trying to then spread that knowledge and get it everywhere. Because what we often see is when they want to deliver some value, they want to deliver a feature, they can't just give it to one team or one squad to go and do it, because that squad doesn't have all the skills.
Has to transition between loads of different parts of the organisation just to...
So suddenly you want to do something really basic, and you're having to coordinate across the API team and
and then it's
the front end team and the back end team.
And it's like 6-month lead time just to do a simple bit of functionality.
But we're running a
we got a flat.
I like that you've got to wave your hands in the air, Stephen.
There we go.
Hey. Excellent.
Oh, we need to be more animated in our...
Yeah, we should wave our arms around a bit more.
Where were we?
We're
a clever group of industrialists, and we've decided to form teams that will not suffer initially from this problem.
Yeah.
So we're back to looking for those individuals to bring into our teams who will welcome the enabling team, embrace the new ideas they bring, and not say, no, I be JavaScript developer, or...
Yeah,
we'll probably cut that out. I don't want to offend any JavaScript developers, but I have specialization X, and this crazy idea of incorporating automatic testing does not fit within the specialization.
Yeah, I don't. I think for like developers, what I've noticed with developers that they're not necessarily, if you say to a developer, do you want to learn a new language or a new bit of technology, they're generally all right with that. It's when you say to a developer, do you want to do some testing? And it's like, I just want to develop. I had this real problem. I was like working with an offshore team, and it's partly the grading structure in this organisation. Like testers were a lower grade than the developers. So it's like when you started asking the developers to test, you thought they thought you were giving them a demotion.
What have I done wrong?
It was a bit of a crazy organisation. They wanted to get rid of all testers, though, and only have developers that tested as well. And I think I'm going to put it out there that test is an important skill in its own right, and it's not just.
It's an important expertise, and
feels like a topic in itself.
That's a topic in its own right. Should we skip that one?
I think that one's already on our queue, actually.
Is it? I thought I saw a post-it note on our queue board.
Oh. Well, so is there?
Phil doesn't want to discuss it. He's got some history here.
No, I'm good. I'm just mildly aware of time. So
yeah, and we're running out of dash water. It's fizzy water with a curious twist of cucumber.
Yes, because all the beers were warm.
That's good promotion. The Ad Agility Podcast, brought to you by Dash Water.
Certainly curious.
It is, right.
Okay. That's cross-functional teams.
Do you want to sum up cross-functional teams?
Yeah, we got to do a bit of a sum up at the end of each section.
Okay, go on then. Sum it up in 30 seconds.
Okay, so you really want to align teams to value and make sure that the team has all the skills it needs in order to deliver that value.
And you need to recognise that there are some teams that don't need to be organised around value, but they're to help the other teams deliver stuff.
Yes. But generally speaking...
The main modus operandi is teams that are cross-functional, that deliver end-to-end value.
And if you ever find a team that actually has loads of dependencies with other teams, you can actually start to break that down bit by bit by bringing those skills into the team.
Well, that's a discussion for another day.
Yes.
And making it clear to the team or teams what they're all working together to deliver, which is sometimes lost in the organisational hierarchy.
Yep.
Yes.
Good stuff. I like that discussion.
That's good. So that's cross-functional done.
Yeah.
What do you want to do next?
Value in the bank. What's on the list, Phil?
It's co-location.
It is. It's the next one.
Oh.
Okay.
Go on.
So we'll start the topic of co-location.
I'm going to start it.
Yeah.
Because you're old school. You want to go back to an office.
Ooh. Go on then. It's a really tough conversation.
I'm slightly with you though, because I like the interaction in offices, but I also don't like commuting.
No, I don't think anyone likes commuting.
But that was the initial manifesto was all about co-location, wasn't it? And it feels like we've moved on, even before the pandemic, we'd moved on a bit from that.
Well, what is co-location to start with? What does co-location mean to you?
Well, co-location to me, in the traditional sense, means we're all in the same office together, and that's not on different floors of the same office.
Is it in the same room?
We're in the same room, and you're not going to get an effective team with an office-based approach if they're all split around different parts of the building. I think you've got to design your building for your team, and you want a team space where the team can just be with each other, where they've got their board, they've got some facilities to work together or even work apart.
Okay, so I was talking to my brother who's in the games industry, and he's an experienced designer. He really feels he needs his team together because they can't share their ideas effectively when they're distributed. Yeah. And when you distribute yourself physically, you perhaps start working to different time schedules as well, so things can become trickier there. But crazy idea. A room is just a type of technology. Okay, so it's the type of technology that keeps us warm and dry and provides whiteboards for us to write on the walls.
And in the future, we can all be together in the metaverse.
Well, perhaps.